Welcome back to the Post Run Podcast, baby. Just finished 5.74 miles, 9:38 pace, 55 minutes and 19.8 seconds. I don't know if you can see that. You kind of can't see me if I do that, but oh my gosh, is the sky gorgeous right now. I'm definitely feeling cramp in here and some feeling in the knee. Even though the run did feel easy, I definitely feel stuff in my knee and in my quads. I got my strength training, which I just remembered that I had, so I'm gonna do that when I go ahead and get home. But yeah, I just want to touch on the sky today. I don't know if you can see that right there because it looks crappy. Your eyes will never be as good as these camera lenses, in my opinion, personally. But oh my gosh, it looks beautiful. The sky just started to get dark, and then all of a sudden it went from yellow to blue to purple. And like I said, you can't see all of it even with this camera, but it looks absolutely amazing. I did not want to work out. Like, I kept pushing it and pushing it off. It's kind of late right now, as you can see, because it's dark out while I'm running. Got this breathable shirt right here, the UFC one. But yeah, I started listening to the Wes Huff, Billy Carson podcast, and pretty interesting, not super far in, but definitely raises questions that I would like to ask Wes Huff myself, in regards to the Bible. I don't want to ask him on here because I feel like if I ask them right here that they're going to be taken out of context or like some level of blasphemy, but just actual genuine curiosity. But I feel like it would raise more questions than it would answer if I went ahead and asked it right here. And I'd rather ask it to the person that I feel like could help answer the questions, so that it's not just like throwing seeds of doubt out there. But yeah, some really great questions, some really great answers. Was listening to like Wes Huff this morning in the translation of the Bible. Still have questions there, but he did kind of answer one of the things that I have is like people talk about the translation of the Bible, and I guess it was they spoke Aramaic, but when they wrote it in Greek. And then people think like, okay, then it went from Greek to German and German to French and French to English, and however the context of what it went, like throughout the timeline, that it went from one language to the next language to the next language to the next language to the next language. When I guess the reality is it went from Aramaic to Greek, and then it got translated, let's say in French, or it got translated in German, and then it got translated in English, but it wasn't German, French, English. It was the Germans looked at the Greek or Aramaic to Greek, because technically it was, I guess, from my understanding, not actually wrote in Aramaic, but speak in Aramaic. So it's like if I speak English and nobody else spoke English, so I translated it to, let's just go, if I spoke Chinese and nobody else spoke Chinese, so I translated it to English so that modern people can read it. And then when I go ahead and translate it to Chinese, I'm translating it from Greek to Chinese. So it was spoken in one language, translated to another, and then it was translated from one to the next, but it wasn't translated from one to the next, and then from the next to the next, and then from the next to the next. So it's interesting the way that he broke that down of how it was translated over it. So if it was spoken in Aramaic, translate it to Greek, from Aramaic to Greek. So it was spoken in one language, written in another, and then the next language looked at the Greek and then translated into German. And then let's say the French got a hold of it. They didn't look at the German and translate it to French. They looked at it in they looked at it in Greek, and then also looked at it in German to see how it translated there between the two, and then made sure that between the two copies that it was accurately translated to French. And then same thing for English. English didn't look at the German and then the French, and then translate it based off the French. They looked at it in Greek and then started translating it in English and made sure that it was subsequently meant the same thing when you looked at English translation from Greek, the German translation, and the French translation. They had those two to compare it to based off of that. So I do find that kind of fascinating, because in my head it was translate it and then translate it and then translate it from a translation like a game of telephone, as Wes said. Like that. Oh gosh, there's that little demon thing right there. It scared the crap out of me. But yeah, it was translated over years, but it wasn't translated like telephone. It was looked at the original of like the original scrolls or scribes that they had, and then translate it, and then looked at the reflection in the other languages to make sure between all three languages, after they reflected it from the original, that it was accurate, or that they coincided the things that they were saying. It's not like I told you and you listened to my video and told someone else, or made a video and then somebody else made a video from that video, and vice versa. It'd be like, I make this video, you listen to it, and then you make a video, and in your video you reference my video, and then somebody else listens to your video, they come back to my video, watch my video, then listen to your video again, and then they're translating based off of my video, but they're also listening to your video to make sure that what I'm saying is accurate to, is what they're saying is accurate to what I'm saying, and what you're saying is accurate to what I'm saying, and that theirs is congruent, so that it makes a triangle, and then it keeps going on. I don't know if that makes sense, but it definitely helped me better understand the translation of the Bible. Still got other questions, because I think when you like look at like hieroglyphs or something like that, not to say that it's translated in hieroglyphs, but I'm wondering, how do you accurately know what it says? Like if I said sick, if I said I'm sick, you probably think like I'm not feeling well. But there's also like sick in slang, which is like, yo, it's awesome, it's sick. So I do wonder, how do you know the slang? Like if I had a hieroglyph, right? Hieroglyphs are pictures. If you look at modern emojis, they would be considered hieroglyphs. So if you put like a person and an eggplant and the water, you put a person, an eggplant, and a water, and then you put dancing, somebody might say like, oh, the people they would celebrate, they would eat eggplants, and they would splash themselves with water, and they would dance in celebration. But like, you come back now, eggplant, person, eggplant, water, and dancing would probably mean that the person is doing some form of sexual act, and then maybe they're celebrating afterwards. I don't even know, but like that would be a more accurate, I think. Looking at eggplant is emoji for your inappropriate part. People don't really use the eggplant emoji because they want to eat eggplants, if you know what I mean. Anyways, some cool things that I've been thinking about. But thank you for tuning in this episode of the Post Run Podcast. Be who you want to become in order to become who you want to be. Thank you. I will see you guys next time, tomorrow.